Our friends, our family, all the people that we have who are tuning in today, we are so excited to have this beautiful, powerful, amazing woman sitting in our studio. And her name is Janae Johnson. And I have so much to say about Janae, but I'm just going to hit on some of the things that really stick that I connect with. And Greta's going to give you a little bit of what she's connecting with. And then we're going to let Janae we want you to feel her presence and feel who she is. So Janae is a heart math certified trainer. And that really speaks to my heart because I am also involved with heart math and use it with a lot of clients. So the minute you said that, like you got my attention. This is about breath work, and I'm not going to get into the details of that, but I do want to ask everybody to keep their feet on the ground if you're walking or even if you're sitting, and take a breath right now. I like to remind people to just inhale and exhale slowly, because as you digest this information, there's so much, and I think we can get in our heads a lot, but Janae, I just feel this grounding feeling when I'm around you. And we got on a Zoom call before this, and I want our I know that's going to come through for our listeners. So anyway, with that said, Janae is from New York, and I'm starting to hear a little bit of that accent as you came in today. She's got Caribbean and Southern roots, lives in Oakland. So again, my neighbor, because I grew up in San Lorenzo. We have an amazing mutual friend who's actually been on the podcast before. And the other thing I thought was so amazing, Janae, is that you are trained as a licensed minister. So I know you're probably sitting there with like so many things that you want to say back to me right now. And Greta's going to say a little something too. But these are such big things that are speaking to me and in my heart. So Greta, you go.
I am just blown away by this woman. Okay, I went on her website. I was looking at everything that you are involved in. You truly are the definition of a phenomenal woman. You really are. I mean, and when we tell you about some of the things she's involved in, I mean, you're going to feel so lazy. You're going to feel like, what am I doing with my life? Because I don't even know how you do it all. It's so much, and it's such meaningful, powerful work that you're involved with. One of the things I think is so freaking cool is you're bringing mindfulness into the public health system. You're pioneering that. And I mean, we have learned so much about mindfulness just in the last 10 years. I mean, it used to kind of be something you never really heard of. And is it woo-woo? We don't know. Now it is so crucial for mental health. Yes. And we're just so fortunate for people like you, pioneers like you, that are changing the healthcare system in such an important way. And you also have been featured in various publications, including Mindful Magazine, which we have right next to you. And you're a regular contributor, and you've been recognized as a leader and agent of change in mindfulness, in the mindfulness movement, I should say, the whole movement itself. And you are a curator and founder of the Right Within Experience, a mindfulness immersion program that reclaims humanity, joy, and well-being for people of African ancestry through mindfulness practices. And many, many more. This is just a small amount of the things that you're involved with and leading in. And one of the things you're here to really talk to us about today is joy.
Yes.
Which we're so excited to hear about that.
Thank you, ladies. You're so lovely. And I am so happy to talk to you about joy. And thank you for that beautiful introduction. I do have a lot of things, my fingers in a lot of pies, if you will. And it really comes from the inside out. You mentioned my role as a minister. So that is foundational to what I do. I have a vibrant Christ-centered faith. I have a vital, spiritual, active relationship with God. And I think that is a force, if you will, and a power and a compass that guides me in the hard times and in the good times. And that's what I have discovered about joy. Joy is a spiritual fruit, actually. It's a fruit of the Spirit. And so what does that mean? It means that it's something that you cultivate as you're cultivating and developing and nurturing your relationship with the Creator, the infinite, the one. What the Holy Bible, the sacred text, tells us is that God made everyone to dwell on the face of the earth out of one. Some texts say out of one, other texts say out of one blood. So that means that everybody on the face of the earth is interconnected in our origin, of creation. So part of what is shaking us up right now is this tremendous amount of disconnection and polarity based on, you name it.
You name it
You
right
name it.
now.
Politics, racial designation, ethnicity,
Vaccines. I mean, whatever it is,
whatever it
right?
is.
Yeah.
Land grabbing, aggressions of all kinds. But what guides my work, even when I'm talking about the hard things, is to remember that the essence of us, the beginning of us, is one. And that is so important, especially when I come to the area of racialized trauma, which is what I teach in the public health department. In the public health department, I am the one and only innovation leader, mindfulness, trauma, and racial healing. And in the public health department, they talk about racial equity, but I deliberately shifted my title to healing, because what is at stake, I think, is a misunderstanding, lack of information of the trauma of racialization. If we all come from one, that means that the designation of black, white, yellow, brown was made up. It was made up. It's called a social construct.
I just got chills, body chills from head to toe.
It was made up.
It's what people tell you.
So it's not that, it's not just black people, white people
Right.
are also a race that has been made up.
We're just people.
We're just all people, which is something that when you look at the notion of white superiority, white supremacy, which is a delusion and a lie, if we're all one, right?
Right.
And we build systems and practices and behaviors and policy around that one group based on their skin identification is superior. And we line up everything in our system to support that.
You can say that about men and women too, that we're the inferior sex. We're the weaker sex.
Absolutely.
Made up.
Absolutely. It's made up.
Yeah.
It's all made up. And so here we are in this grand conundrum of having to fight for the right to, that's why my program is about the reclamation of humanity. Because what happens in the conversation around race, it's a dehumanization process. If you own another human being,
Right.
that's a dehumanization process. If you say you can't have access, full access to all that we have in this country because of your skin color, and it's not just as if it's not just if you say, if you develop systems and policies, and then it becomes coded
Right.
in our belief system. So people think that racism is cognitive. It is not. It's in the body. It's you walk into an elevator by yourself. You're by yourself in, Montgomery Street, San Francisco. I teach this in trauma. And there's a young black man with dreadlocks and a cap, and you're going into the elevator alone. There's something that happens in your body, not even in your mind yet. That takes a minute. It starts in the body. Same instance, you're with a young white guy, hair all fluffy, strawberry blonde, and you go in. Something happens in the body first. And these are these biases that we have They're unchecked, unconscious belief systems that have us respond a certain way. Well, why do we? Because we've been fed information and we look at how everything is organized. And just by coming into the world and seeing how it's organized, you say, well, I'd rather be this than that because that over there, that's a hot mess.
Right.
So you see, we just take it in by osmosis, even before we even hear any words. We can just survey. So we come from the one. I can tell the hard truth about what's happening. And I think that's why I'm effective in my work, is because I hold all of us inside of the truth that we come from the one. But there are practices, there are beliefs that we must undo, that we must become aware of and pay attention to, so that we can shift and reprogram and rewire ourselves, which takes me to the mindfulness piece. Because mindfulness is about cultivating attention and awareness. Mindfulness is about paying attention on purpose with an attitude of kindness and curiosity. Non-judgmental, non-reactive. So all that sounds all, that's a practice.
Yeah.
And that's where the meditation comes in. Because meditation, the practice of sitting quietly, helps you to build the muscle of coming back to the breath, retraining the attention, sitting still. The mind is going to go. It's not about emptying your mind. It's not about not ever thinking. Good luck with that, honey.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
tried that and I failed miserably.
No, because that's not the goal of it. The goal is to practice returning and retrieving your attention.
And if the body feels those things first, we are using that muscle memory, right? To
Absolutely.
remold. And I
Absolutely.
love that like neuroscience has given us this, this information that says we can reverse things. We can change
Yes,
things.
Absolutely. It's the principle called neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
That the brain is malleable. What you think, do, and pay attention to with consistency, you have you wire yourself. Like I have a wire in my brain called driving a car, right? So I studied it. I did the student driver training. I practiced, and then I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And now you just grab your car keys, you jump in the car. You don't even, because it's so in your system. You know what to do. You check your mirrors, you look, and you go.
And even if you don't drive for a week, you can still get right back in.
Get back in because it's wired in. So the same thing about how we think about each other and how we think about race, which is why I developed the program, the right within experience, having an experience within that's right. It's taken from a song from the Fugees, hip hop artist Lauryn Hill. And there's a line in the song that says, how you gonna win if you ain't right within?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm like, gosh, this all sounds so familiar. Where did I hear this from? You just gave it to us.
Yes. How you gonna win?
Yes.
And when
They
I
say
heard
it a couple
that line,
times. How
yes.
you gonna win if you ain't right
Right.
within? How you gonna win?
Yeah, exactly. You remember the song.
Oh, yes.
So when I heard it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to use that line.
Yeah. Nice.
Love the
That
Fugees.
really inspired me. That is the right within experience. So how I come at healing for people of African ancestry is to, one, rewrite the narrative. The narrative of white supremacy is a lie, it's a delusion. So break that up. Understand that we have always been in resistance, and resistance is resilience. And then how do we use that resilience to do this rewiring and concentrate on the joy, which is a spiritual fruit, which is fuel, and develop these practices that foster well-being. And when I teach people of white ancestry, I teach it similarly, but just flipping the cards a little bit.
Yeah.
Understanding that you came to this country, grabbed land, committed genocide, killed the people who were here. Like these are the hard facts. I mean, it's not, And now we don't want to. And anyway, that's a whole other story. We don't want to tell the history, but in so doing, you lost something.
Mm-hmm.
You lost something. And this whole notion of domination, to do that, you have to give up something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from New York, like the hub of multiculturalism.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were multicultural before the rest of the country even
Yes.
knew that, because we're the harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island. So I went to school with Italians, Jews, Polish, Russian, Filipinos, African Americans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans. I mean, this is the, they used to call it a melting pot of New York.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes what happens is people come, if you're a lighter skin, you come to this country and you drop your culture.
Mm-hmm.
And become white. You understand what I'm saying?
We have had a guest talk about that very thing.
Right.
She was from India, or is from India, and she said that was something she really had to struggle with.
Yes.
And get her culture back
Get
eventually.
your culture back, so that we would have people who come to this country who came from Greece, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
They come, they drop that, and then they become white. And then they take on the attitudes, the practices of the dominant culture,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
which then is about suppressing, oppressing those who, by virtue of the fact that they look different and have been marginalized consistently and pushed to the outskirts of the society.
Yeah.
So then we reteach it. So the whole thing is healing for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
I see what happened, and I get to heal. And what I say is, you didn't start it, I didn't start it, but this is what we inherited. So our job, now the baton is landed in our hand. What do we get to do about it? You cannot redo what your ancestors did. I do not need to take up the pain of my ancestors. But what I need to do is stand on their shoulders and say, how do I do right by them?
Mm-hmm.
How do I reclaim my humanity, whether I'm designated white-bodied or black-bodied? How do I reclaim my humanity and bring that essence of humanity and human connection back? So in everything that we do, going to the ballot, deciding who we're going to vote for, how we're going to organize our community, the question becomes, is this an elevation of humanity? Is this truly fair? Is this really equitable?
Mm-hmm.
And equitable doesn't mean equal. It means if this person, we're moms, we have kids, right? So if this little one has been behind, what extra do they need so they can get up and be with the rest?
Right.
They might not be getting the same thing. They might be getting something else. So that we can balance the playing field. And so I think that the conversation has become the complexity of the love of power and the complexity of the fact that our system is a marketplace. Markets have existed throughout time. That's not the issue. Buying and selling and trading. And the issue is that our market is based on extraction. It's based on taking from the land and taking from people. And that's the problem. I've been watching this thing on people on homesteading, people wanting to go back to the land, farm, grow their own food, and because even our food system has been corrupted by a corporate culture.
Yep, that greed.
That is not about our optimal nutrition. The majority of the food in a grocery store is not even real food. It's a food-like
Product.
substance.
Yeah, a food product.
It's a product.
I remember eating an apple and going, this doesn't even taste like anything.
Right.
It was crunchy and it had something like it looked like an apple, but it didn't taste like an apple.
Because our food now is hot housed.
Yeah.
Something more little tomatoes. I'm like, how come the food doesn't taste like it tasted when I was a kid?
Right.
Because it's not food.
It's not. So people there's a hunger in the country
Yeah.
for that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually more hungry for the same thing
Mm-hmm.
than we're not. But the challenge becomes is people think that if I unite with them, that I'm going to lose.
Right. Right. Because it's the weaker in their minds. Somebody along the way, they were told that this is the weaker people. And so how can I overcome? How can I get the better things if I'm over here?
Yes.
Messed up.
So where I say where there's hope though, where
Sure.
there's optimism is in the possibility that we can rewire. The brain is malleable. If we think, do, and pay attention to, if new light comes into the situation, if after you've heard what I said, how can you think the same way?
Absolutely. So you know what keeps coming up to me right now is the whole idea of changing perspective, right, on anything. And so when I think about the word impossible, somebody can look at that and go, this means it's not happening for me. I can break it down and go, that word actually says I'm possible.
I love that.
So it's always this way of how we're looking. And I had never looked at the word impossible like that until somebody put that in my head. And now I don't see it anymore as something I cannot do. I'm like, oh no, what this word is saying is go ahead, you can do this, So yes. Oh, so everything you're saying is so rich. And I'm hearing Bob Marley's song in the back on war, like so many, all the thoughts are swirling right now.
Because it is
fired up.
It is one love.
Yeah.
So I will tell you so candidly, in my workplace, we're doing work on diversity, equity, inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, I hope I don't start crying.
You can. We have to.
Okay,
Yes.
good. And it's so hard-hitting, didactic, psychopathic, sociopathic. Like racism is neurotic. It's a neurosis. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. It is crazy.
Well, it derived from hate.
It's
the opposite of love.
Exactly. So. But the way I approach the work is I'm a call in. I did a healing program for the San Francisco Zen Center, and we called it A Time to Heal. It was for a predominantly white-bodied population. So for African Americans, I do The Right Within. Over here, I did A Time to Heal, explaining the history, but it's a call-in culture. It's not a cancel. It's not call out. Let me just call you out.
Right.
It's not that. I could say this. I could tell you the truth, right? But I want to call you in. Because why? Because I want you to build the confidence and the courage to do the right thing when I'm not there. When you're on your own with your friends. Because who's going to talk to your uncle in Wyoming? Not me.
Right.
You've got to do that. Right?
Yeah.
I belong to 12% of the population.
Yeah.
So it's a call in. How can what I have support your flourishing into your full humanity? And I mention work because they're doing it the opposite way. They're doing it the opposite way. And I got kicked out of the diversity class.
What?
I know.
Stop it right now.
I know.
Okay, who kicked you out? We got to go talk
I
to
know,
them.
right? I won't say no names, but
'Cause we got your back. We're not letting those things
I'm
happen.
Like, look, I got my girls.
That's right. You are our girl.
My
So
posse in Livermore.
Right.
we're coming for you.
They're coming for you.
Wow.
Because my perspective is different.
Yeah.
So I come in there with this perspective of, this terrible thing happened. There was some terrible things, very graphic, and I also don't teach that way. But small group talk, I said, but if I heal, if I heal my ancestral timeline back and forward. Part of the challenge of this work is that they have despiritualized it. They don't believe truly in the depth of that level of healing. And so it sounded like gobbledygook it sounded like she's chaotic. She's disruptive. She is not in lockstep with the presenter. And they canceled me in an email.
Wow.
Not even like a conversation. Like, yo, sis, can we?
Yeah. We need to talk a little bit about this. Yeah.
You don't even have to talk to me in person. Can we just talk on Zoom? No.
Wow.
So I'm telling the truth about that because this is why in some situations people don't want to have the DEI conversation.
Right.
Because it's cancel culture.
It's not safe.
Right. You'll just
Safety. Now, I'm not saying, we're going to be comfortable. So
No.
comfort and safety are two different things, right?
Absolutely.
So I may,
Let's go.
Janet,
Get
feels-
into it.
That feels, I don't like how that feels.
Yeah.
And what I hold space for in my work is I expand this space and I hold the space for you to squirm. But you know what? Because my compass is love, you safe with me, baby. Because no one's coming for you. No one is going to cancel you. You can say, in my family, they use the N-word, and we could talk about it.
Right.
And this is the other thing. How can we talk about it if we can't talk about it? If you can't be safe to talk about it and really say what's so.
That's the part that I trip on all the time because there's so many people that preach this idea of, oh no, we want to get together. We want to have these conversations. I want to learn. I want to know, but nobody wants to say it. And everybody's afraid and everyone's, am I going to offend this person or is this person really going to take offense? And then everything's, the rug gets pulled out and now you're exposed and, there's problems all over the place, right? Which
You're walking on eggshells and you can't have these honest conversations. How is anyone supposed to grow and heal and learn?
Yeah.
You cannot.
You're not talking.
You cannot. You cannot.
But I also think there are people in the world that are not safe. And that's the part that is so hard because I'm an open person. I love having all the conversations, whether I agree or not, whether I don't understand or not. But I have been in the presence of those who I'm like, yeah, tell me, I want to know more. And it's almost like through their discussions, they're now working up a whole thing and now they're pissed off. And I'm like, what just happened? Like just trying to get some clarity and the emotions and everything is explosion, right? It's
well, that's the trauma.
right.
That's the other piece that I look at. The trauma is the dysregulation back to the body. It's the body that's keeping the score. So for all our fancy language around racial issues, it falls deeply on the body.
Yeah.
When Black people enter the room, there is a history of violence against the Black body. And so that's why sometimes people need to have the conversation first in affinity groups before we mix and mingle.
Sure.
Because you need to work some of that out. Because I have such a potent spiritual practice, I have tools, and I've been doing this for a long time, sisters. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to say that I'm definitely not beyond the trauma because what just happened to me at work was traumatizing. It was traumatizing, and the alienation and the punishment that has come out of it. This is a whole story. Woo!
We could take a breath on that real
Take
quick.
a breath on that. But trauma is real. It's the dysregulation and disintegration of the system. The mind and the body get separated, and we have fight, flight, appease, freeze, dissociate. And you could be going through any of those at any time. I thought, well, I worked out a lot of my stuff and I'm good. And then I realized, I was just saying to my husband this morning, oh my gosh, I realized that this particular thing that I suffer over, that's actually a freeze response.
I'm just learning that in myself as well.
Are you? I said, this sense of procrastination where I seem to get stuck, it's freeze. And I said, oh, well, I guess you have to reveal it to heal it. And he's a therapist, so then he's still
Nice.
and he crosses his arm and he listens to
Let's
me.
go.
And I'm like, yeah, help me. What do you think of this, And he says, yes, that has some validity. And, you know,
Oh,
his
nice.
voice changes.
Put on his therapist hat.
Yes, you know.
for sure.
And he's just, and that's good what you say, because you have to reveal it. And so I said, so what happens? So when I see it, he says, well, that's it. Now you can recognize it. And now you begin to build you could say, oh, this has come, oh, this is what this is. And then you begin to build um, opportunities to recover yourself.
It's about recovery. Yes, that's what I'm learning too. And then having those tools and going back to them when you are stuck.
Yes.
So that then you can move
Yes.
forward again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to deal with the trauma.
Yeah.
And mindfulness, trauma-sensitive mindfulness, helps us to do that. It helps us to sit with ourselves, but then what mindfulness offers is two beautiful practices that I always bring into the room, is loving kindness, metta.
I was just going to say meta.
Metta, right? This
Nice.
infusion of positive energy, this infusion of blessing. You know, may you be well, may you be at peace, may you live with ease, may you be safe. This infusion of that, you bring it to yourself, you wish it for others. And then self-compassion, compassion practices. This is the work of Dr. Kristen Neff. She's done a ton of science. There's science behind all of this, actually. But having compassion, to be able to say, I'm having a hard time right now. This is really rough. I wish that this would pass. I'm looking forward to it. I've overcome things before. Let me just slow it down, get some tea, take 2 steps back. And the slowing down is so important because we live in a world that is so fast. Modern life is on some kind of jet fuel. And modern life is always about expand, 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 expand. What are the metrics? Okay, we did this time. How we did it? But that is not how nature even goes. There's an ebb and flow to nature. The tide comes in, it goes out.
There's a dying and a rebirth.
Dying and a rebirth.
Hibernation.
Yes.
Spring, rebirth of
Absolutely.
spring.
Winter, we come in. Winter, well, California, look.
I know.
I had to learn this when I came to California. I was like, girl, it's February. Like in New York, it's February. You're going to stay in, but it's February. The sun is shining. I said, oh, I need to slow down.
Yeah.
I can't slow down.
We get pissed when there's too much rain in February and we're like, what? We're supposed to be out walking right now.
Right.
Californians are freaking out with all the rain we've been having lately.
But we need the rain for the lushness and
Correct.
for our green for the earth to get soaked and really take in all that saturation of moisture.
Because look what happens when it's not prepared for that.
Exactly.
We get, roadways that are falling apart.
Exactly.
And, so what you're saying right now is so powerful that it reminds me of a conversation Greta and I were having about, I did a run, like a Thanksgiving run or something like that. And I remember there was this little kid and he was complaining about his stomach. And the father continued to tell him that he needs to keep going. And the kid was like, I need to stop for a minute. And the dad's like, no, just keep on going, basically suck it up and keep going. And I think so many of us have been told that in our lives where it has allowed us to disconnect from our own bodies.
Absolutely.
So having that awareness and that self-compassion, gosh, it's like this is such a revolution that's happening amongst people because, even right now I'm thinking, oh, my jaw's getting a little tight, and to take a moment and go, I'm going to open my jaw. In the past, I would think, what's it going to look like if I'm on camera and I'm loosening my jaw? I'm going to look like what's wrong with Michelle. But it's like, this is what I need to do right now, So
Absolutely.
we've really moved away from, and we're telling our children at a very young age to disassociate.
Absolutely. Perfectionism is one of the hallmarks of the dominant culture. And you can never reach it. So you're in constant pursuit of some place that you'll never arrive. And there's hallmarks to the dominant culture. And perfectionism is one of them. And so this whole thing of continuing to expand, not listening to the very vehicle that you will take through the 90 to hopefully 120 years.
Yes.
Right.
That's what we're shooting for.
That's what we're shooting for. The body is, I said it earlier, but the body tells you first. before it comes to the brain. That's why heart math is so delicious, because the heart actually sends more messages to the brain than the brain to the heart.
Wow.
The heart is the valence center for the emotions. The heart, the variable rates of the heart, you could see where we're going with shh or even. The heart is taking a lot in. And that's why the breath in heart math, it's heart focused breathing, where you're breathing slow and deep through the chest or heart area. Slow and deep. Breathing evenly.
It just makes you feel so much better.
Yes. Breathe 5 in. Exhale 5. Or any rhythm, even rhythm that feels good to you. What that does is it quiets down the intensity of depleting emotions, because that's where we lose the energy and the emotional what you're talking about, the emotional outbursts. And it helps us shift and regain balance so that we can regain access to our prefrontal cortex. Heart math is intelligent energy management. Intelligence is clear-sightedness. So I could see clearly. I'm not sure what to do. Let me just breathe. Bring things down. So now I could see, what is the next step. I do it before I have conversations. I have a very important email to write, so I'm just really trying to breathe in and achieve a certain kind of coherence in my system so that I can do this thing and be done with it. When I'm hearing a hard conversation, my son came to me the other day and he says, Mom, I need you to listen. Because I was, I was like, take 2 steps back. Stop. Be quiet. Breathe. Look at him.
I'm present for you now.
Right. And listen. And he grabbed my hand. I said, okay. It gives you a sense of, I don't want to say control, but it is. It gives you a sense of sovereignty. To self-management, it's called.
Yeah.
In the mindfulness world, we're looking at the awareness and the self-management so that we can access our empathy and our compassion. And this is what it takes to manage these very challenging external challenges that we have. Race, relationships, the economy, all the things. If we don't achieve a certain level of human competence, we go into these things really not prepared to forward solution, not prepared to forward connection. And that's what happens all the time. That's what I'm experiencing at work. So although I work on a project that's supposed to be about forwarding connection, the dysregulation of the system is that's their default mechanism, and they go right into reactivity, fear-driven control. And so I have to, and now I'm on board. Right? Because it's a big ship I'm on here, right?
And it's the polar opposite of everything that you are there to teach. So how are you even supposed to do your job if you're getting shut down?
Absolutely.
Right at the start. There has to be an openness.
Absolutely. And so that's what I'm navigating. And I'm telling you this too, because it's not Pollyanna. It's not always easy. Sometimes we find ourselves in very challenging situations.
Especially as a change maker, as you are.
As a change maker, as a disruptor, as a one who's using a compass of love. We never say love at work. I say it when I'm doing the mindful moment. We have a mindful moment midweek, and I always end with, I love y'all. I love you.
We need more love.
Because that's the essence of everything. So I think that it's not Pollyanna. It's not easy. That's why the practice, where you can build strength in the practice, where you can build strength in having a resource that you can recover yourself, where you have then build a community to come to And then you can get, God is giving me all these ideas about how to manage it.
I love that you just said that, because when you were
Yes.
doing the heart math practice, a thought that came to me is that, because I am a spiritual person, that is when I am able to let spirit come through me.
Yes.
And it's maybe not even my own clear ideas. It's like
Yes.
downloads from
Absolutely.
God, from
Absolutely.
source.
Or the vehicle for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a text in a psalm in the Holy Bible that says, "Be still and know that I am God."
Mm-hmm.
The be still is stop your striving. Stop and know. So yes, there are the facts, and this is all what's stacked up against me. And then I go, and I have God.
Yep.
Shifts the balance of power. And we're not going to get to the depth of true healing without returning to source.
Mm-hmm.
And I must tell you, I'm retiring soon from my public health work. And to be honest, I can't wait.
Well, then congratulations.
Thank you. Because I'm at a time and space where I need to be fully authentic and fully in myself and fully able to speak all that I am and not feel like I have to titrate that. And so therefore, I've outgrown my little flower pot.
Mm-hmm.
It was real. It was good. Peace out.
Yeah.
Love y'all.
Love y'all, right? I'm out, because the time is for me to really live fully in my authenticity and to be able to say, in my opinion, and I'm not here to argue or convince, in order for this to be forwarded, we must be able to stop and truly, truly access and invoke a power that is higher. And I'm not talking about denominational religion. You got me?
No, yes.
That's not
Feel
what
you.
I'm talking
Yes.
about. Because that's also a splintering and
And
Christ-
Limiting.
right. It's how, even inside of that, how can we all come together? I was in New York at my mom's church recently. The minister was having his anniversary, and the minister who spoke said, "I grew up in Brooklyn, and you would walk down the street and there were like 10 different storefront churches." He said, and I used to wonder, why don't they all just get together? You and your 10 members, and you and your 10, everybody had like 10 little members. Because we still are driven by this sense of hierarchy and power and
division.
division. So what I'm speaking of is, I'm speaking of being led by a compass that is higher than that. There's a beautiful book by a woman named Heather McGhee, and it's called The Sum of Us. I think she's an economist. Beautifully written. And what she shows is how this issue of race hurts everybody. She points to this story. It happened in one of the cities in Alabama, I believe. There used to be, because the South is hot, right? Weather is hot. There used to be these beautiful community pools with playgrounds and zoos and all these things attached, so families could get out of their hot homes and come cool off. So when integration came and it became clear that the pool could be used by everybody, people, rather than forwarding that, what they did is they filled the pool in.
Oh my.
They filled the pool in with concrete, closed the whole thing, closed down the park. I guess they sold off the animals from the little kiddie zoo. And this is because they're so entrenched in, I'd rather close it than be in the water with you.
Yep.
And see, isn't that the epitome of cutting off your nose to spite your face? Because don't you want to have access to the pool?
And now no one can have
And
joy.
no one can have the joy of it.
Yep.
So I think that just taking those 2 steps back, coming home to self, listening to the body and saying, oh, that message, and being curious about it. Then we can start to then make some other decisions. And that's where mindfulness is so beautiful, and where there's and where we can access joy, which makes me think about this quote I want to read to you. This is from Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. It's a book called Mindfulness for Beginners, Reclaiming. Now, you know I got to put on my glasses. I got to put on my glasses. Reclaiming the present moment and your life. And I love this quote. Dr. John Kabat-Zinn brought mindfulness and meditation to the medical field to help people who are experiencing stress and pain and illness. And he brought it to the University of Massachusetts, and now it has spread like wildfire all over the country. And his program is called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, MBSR. Science-based. You could take it at Kaiser, UCSF, and a variety of places.
Wherever you go, there you are. It's like one of his big,
yes.
Love it.
So one of his quotes is, ultimately, I see mindfulness as a love affair with life, with reality and imagination, with the beauty of your own being, with your heart and body and mind, and with this world. If that sounds like a lot to take in, it is. And that is why it can be so valuable to experiment systematically with cultivating mindfulness in your life. So mindfulness is a cultivation. It becomes a way of being that precedes what we do. It becomes a way of being that allows us to have access to the joy of life, even in the challenging times. One of the things that then supports our joy is gratitude. Gratitude is so interesting because when we are thankful, the brain goes, oh, we got all that? Oh, that's so yummy. And the interesting thing about the brain, it doesn't know if the thing is in real time or past. It doesn't differentiate. So you can begin to generate feelings of gratitude for that which is yet to come and still get the same benefits in your body.
That is so exciting.
Isn't that exciting?
That makes me just feel effervescent just hearing you say it.
Isn't that wonderful?
And
that means that what's being kicked off in the system is I don't think it's a chemical reaction that supports the immune system that's almost even better than getting a flu shot. I mean, that's how powerful gratitude is. And then we're in that space of gratitude, and that's taking us up, up, up on the emotional guidance scale. So now we're feeling joy. Now we're feeling passion. Now we're having, positive expectation. Now we're having love and freedom. And now, which gives us the energy that we need to solve these very difficult problems, to come at them with an attitude of possibility thinking, as opposed to,
I am possible.
I'm possible. I love that. There we go. So
it's a regenerating emotion versus depleting emotions, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And joy and love are regenerative. There's times when you are going to go down. This whole thing at work for me took me down. I was in the down. I've been in the down. Sisters, I've been in the down for months.
Yeah, that was a rough experience you had to go through.
And it's still not finished. And I'm like, I did not come to work for this, to cry. And what I've been working on and recognizing is that I can regenerate and recover and refresh and replenish and rest. And so the same way that the leaves fall off the trees and it goes in, and now we're seeing all the buds come out. And so I just keep that in mind. It is a cycle. Yeah. And there are times when it shall be challenging, But even in the challenges, I always cite this song by Frankie Beverly and Mays. He says, joy and pain, sunshine and rain.
Oh, yeah.
You
Uh-huh.
know?
Oh yeah, we know.
So it's one coin and two sides.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to remember when I'm in the down, that's where I use my gratitude practice. You know, I just write out my gratitudes in the morning. I journal, which is another great mindfulness practice. You
Yes.
just
Thanks
journal
for the
what
reminder. I need to get mine
Yes,
back out
yes.
again.
Pull your journal out. Do it with your coffee, your tea, or just sit outside for a minute, you know, or over lunch, you know, wherever you can fit it in. But the body likes consistency. So finding a time where you do it with consistency, because then the body was be like, aren't we journaling now?
Yeah.
Right.
And here's something that was kind of cool. When I was doing, it's been a few months, but I was doing it at night, like right before bed. I'd turn on my
Yes.
little light and sit down in the bed. And then my husband started, he wasn't journaling, but he was just thinking of things he was grateful for and doing like his own little version of
Yes.
meditation. And so I became like this, I inspired him.
Absolutely. It's really beautiful. My husband and I have a practice. We have a gratitude practice. So we do it, I'm going to say, once every other week. Sometimes we're really on it and we do it once a week, but definitely at least twice a month, where we turn to each other and we tell each other what we are grateful for.
Oh, I like that.
I appreciated, I noticed when you did X, Y, and Z. I appreciate watching you take care of your sister. He has a sister that's not well. I appreciate watching you, how you really have assumed a big brother and take care of her. You know, or he'll tell me, I noticed when you did this or said that. I'm like, you noticed that? You saw me? Then it becomes this, oh my God, you really are seeing me. Right? You really see me.
What I love about this is then it would make you look for things that you appreciate about your partner.
Yes, yes.
So that you had something to tell
You
them.
had something to tell them. And so that to me always gives us a little lift, and it helps you to feel witnessed and seen and appreciated.
Oh, that's all we want.
That's all we want, right?
Yeah.
So gratitude is very, very powerful. And the scholar that did so much work around gratitude is a man named Dr. Bob Emmons. I believe he was at UC Davis. He wrote a couple of books. One is called Thanks, and the other is Gratitude Works. And as you read those books, you will notice he is a believer. You could tell that he has a sense of the supernatural. He has a sense of there's more that's holding things together. And many of the scientists, if you go through their work, I'm looking at Dr. Rick Hansen. I'm like, yo, Rick. You could see it in their work. Dr. Dan Siegel, he's got all this fancy stuff. I said, oh, you mean God? Is that what you're saying? So,
Because we haven't been allowed to say it. I'm so tired of living in a society where we're not allowed to talk about our spirituality.
Yes, yes. And yet on our currency, we say, in God, we trust. Yet,
it was founded on faith.
a little bit at least, I mean, right?
Yes.
Because let me just say this. There were contradictions.
Sure.
But the thread of that was there. And I'm always looking at ordinary people, people who are on the ground, who really do the work of keeping the country going. And you go to small towns. I've been to a lot of small towns in my move across the country. And there's a groundedness. There's a compass. I love that word, of a guide that ordinary people that really keep the country going go by. And there's a sense of, even if they don't have a traditional practice, but there's a sense of there's something that guides us, and we have we have a sense of what is right. and what is not. And people do go off the rails,
Yeah.
all of that. But when you really look at, there's more people, I assert, that really want that want some grounding, that want a touchstone
Mm-hmm.
and be rooted, than there are those that don't.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're just out of touch from it. They've just gotten disconnected from it.
Absolutely.
My son was 2 years old, woke up one morning and said, "Mommy, we're just all here to love each other. That's it." And I felt like that was truly a message direct from God. But I mean, if you don't want to call it God, call it love energy, call it whatever you want, but it does exist. You can't deny it.
Yes. I think what I'm concerned about, and I'm older than y'all.
You wouldn't know it.
Right.
I am, girl. I am. What I'm concerned about is this. As we expand to include, which I'm for, but don't eclipse me. And when I say that, I mean, don't say, well, you're a part of the traditional, so therefore you're discounted.
Right.
There's a lot about me that is a part of the traditional. I'm heterosexual. I am married. I have a Christ-centered faith. Those are considered traditional, right? If you expand, if I make room for you, then it's room. But it's not for me to be pushed off the table.
No.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
I absolutely
So that's why I just
100%
have
agree.
to say God.
Yeah.
I say God.
Yeah.
Now you can say whatever you say.
Amen.
But for you to be offended
Right.
at how I hold myself, then we have a problem,
Right.
because it's not against you.
No.
Right.
It's my sovereignty. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna let you do you.
Well, and each word also holds different vibrations. And so essentially, again, if we're removing words that people gave us to identify things and label things as whatever it is, that's where we start to get so divided again, where it's like, we're talking about energy. We're talking about a vibration.
Energetic, absolutely.
Why are we getting hung up?
Absolutely.
on
Because the
terms?
sacred text tells us that God is spirit. It tells us God is love. In the definitions.
Yes.
If you, I'm in a class right now, we're really, the Old Testament. Woo! And you're seeing these characteristics and qualities of God. The patience, the constant coming back to, the giving of many, many chances, the setting up, the provision. There are qualities, and what I'm interested in what I teach, is to turn our attention to those qualities. I'm going to start a course called Start Here. It's for people that are just interested to know, well, outside of my denomination, can you, from the inside out, share with me, what does the Bible say? Because I think a lot of people critique it, but they've never read it. Really.
Yeah.
Right.
Y'all ain't read it.
Yes.
You never read it. So I've had years of study, easily 40 years of study.
Wow.
So, and my ordination happened recently. So it's not, it's just something that I want to offer. I have a teaching ministry. It's something that I want to offer. I don't have all the answers, but the key is so that a person can know, so that you can build your own relationship. So it's about fueling and nurturing of a true, vital, spiritual relationship with the one, with Source, with God.
Wow.
And if you know what the qualities and attributes and possibilities are, then you are less apt to think of this energetic as something that is weaponizing, punishing, mean, there is in the scriptures a thing called an idiom of permission. When you see all this stuff happening, you're like, I remember my brother saying, if there's a God, then, people being very mad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
There's this thing called, it's freedom of will.
Mm-hmm.
That source, God, spirit, does not overstep. There's an idiom of permission.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are in alignment with, so there's just things I
In
want
the
to share in
flow.
the flow. So there's things that I want to share from my own walk, but from my own study to support people on their journey. And so there's the spirit. I always say my work is spirit, science, and scholarship.
Mm.
It's a mixture of all of it. I study, I read the scholars, I look at spiritual texts, not only from my own practice, but I've looked at Buddhism, I've looked at African traditional religions, I've looked at metaphysics and mystics, and there's things that I have seen threads in
The
all of
golden
them,
threads, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I've landed squarely in a Christ-centered faith. And the mindfulness, it's all of a piece.
Yeah.
It's the learning to be still. It's the learning to access the joy. It's the learning that to accept our imperfections and our frailties in all that we are and continuing to flourish and enjoy life. I said that my Go to Earth card said joy. Janae, now you bring the party.
Yes.
Janae, joy. They do sound like they go together too. And no wonder you were drawn to Christ. Like when you were saying that, I was thinking, well, Jesus came to teach and share love. And there was war and it was a dark time. And he came and let people know that there could be peace and there could be love. And he taught acceptance and healing and, bringing the lepers in
I was
and
gonna say walked with the people,
walked with
like the actual people. Yeah.
He taught against separation and hatred. So no wonder you are drawn to that. He came and taught pure love.
Yes, yes. And he wasn't met favorably.
Right.
No.
That part. And yet, this is what we just finished celebrating with Easter, Resurrection Sunday, that the once again, the possibility of going in the down,
Yeah.
and coming out.
Yeah.
I did a post on Facebook recently where I said, this is the season of leaving grave clothes behind and coming out of the tomb. And I'm coming out.
I'm coming.
Right? I was like, I'm coming out. I have, at that time, I think I said, I have 12 weeks left, for my full resurrection.
Yeah.
But we also forget we're going to come up on the day of Pentecost, which is about the ascension. So sometimes we look at Christ and we're focused on the crucifixion.
Right.
But that is the path. That was the path to ascension. He's an ascended master. So we're not looking at someone who is not alive, who didn't conquer death. And that is the promise for all of us, that this energy that we're made of, that energy never dies.
Only
It
transforms.
Right. Girl, I knew you were my sister. It transforms. And that's what we're constantly in, is this transmuting and transformation. And that's part of the flow of life. So I find that there's still a lot to be optimistic about. There's still a lot to be passionate about. There's still a lot of things, joy, to have joyful expectation. I find that even in the midst of the trial that I have been in, that there are lessons, that I'm building stronger inner resilience.
It's where the work happens.
This is where the work happens. This doesn't happen
We
when
don't
it's
like
easy.
it.
And we don't like
Right.
it.
That's
I'm like,
what we-
I don't like this. You know?
And that's where we are right now as a society, I think. We're in the icky work part and it doesn't feel good. And everybody's like, what do we do? It's so bad. I just was having a conversation with my girlfriend last night about it.
Yes.
It's so bad. But we still have ascension to look forward to. Everything you're explaining to me, I'm like, wow, I feel so inspired. We can do this. We're in the muck right now, but we're doing the work.
We can do this. I'm going to recommend a book. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so tried to bring a couple of things. This is a book called 100 Scriptures to Cultivate Joy.
Oh.
12 Pathways to Build a Heart of Rejoicing. So for those of your listeners, watchers, who are interested in exploring the sacred text, this is a wonderful place to start. Get it on Amazon. This is David Berge, Berge, and beautiful minister. I think he lives in California. And he went through terrible health challenge. So his first book was about health. So if you look on Amazon, you'll find that book, and this one, where he really sourced the scriptures to help him get out of this dark place.
He was in the down.
And so this I find is a wonderful resource for how do you use the sacred text to transform your thinking and to connect with the kindness and the tenderness of our source, of our creator, of our God. The sun shines on the just and the unjust. God just doesn't say, well, the sun just gonna shine on you and forget y'all.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So until such a time, I don't know.
Right.
But I think that we just do the best we can. We try to stay safe. We try to have good boundaries. Know when we are in danger. Know if I'm working with someone that this is not the time and place. Is this the conversation to have? It might not be.
Right.
What little gem should I drop and keep it to moving or not? We're very spoiled in California. I lived in Arkansas. I'm going to tell you about, try to say some of the things that we say here.
Right.
Not happening. That's what I say on my job. You guys are, you're just using this as an excuse to act badly. Because if you were in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, they would run you out. This way of doing things. So I just don't. I say you don't pick up the tools of the oppressor to change.
Yes.
You have to ascend. You have to go higher. I have to access supernatural information, power, to help me to navigate the field, to help me to know where are the landmines, how, these so many wonderful records in the scriptures. I'm thinking about Daniel, who got thrown into the lion's den because the key was not his spiritual practice. The key was that the other men who were all, high-ranking officials, they were jealous of him, jealous of his relationship to the king. And they used his spiritual practice as a tool to get at him. The king passed an ordinance that forbade the practice that Daniel had. And when he realized, oh my gosh, I've been duped into signing this ordinance, and it puts my main man in jeopardy. But because I signed it, I can't go back on it. So Daniel gets thrown into the lion's den, and the king is pacing up and down at night. Daniel, I hope your God saved. Daniel, will your God save you? So in the morning, he runs to the lion's den, and Daniel comes out. the mouths of the lions stopped. And he said, oh, phew. He says, now, those people that did that, they're going in.
Turn.
Consequences, because there are consequences. See, this is the part that people don't forget. There's consequences. Might not be today, might not be tomorrow, might be down your generational line.
Right.
Better get your act.
Get it together right now.
Down your generational line. Through the perpetrators of the fraud. And the lions were hungry, and they handled their business. But Daniel emerged unscathed. And then the king elevated him again, So I think about that sometimes, that was some kind of supernatural act of faith.
Yeah.
Right.
But Daniel had to have been listening to God. He had to have been hearing from God. Every situation is unique and different, and you need to have that listening to know, do I go right? Do I go left? Is it time to talk? Maybe I should be quiet. It's not it's how they say fools rush in. So it's these are the habits and practices that come with slowing down, developing a true vital spiritual relationship, and listening. God talks to me different than he talks to you.
Right. Those meditative moments.
It's unique.
My mom gave me a really beautiful gift as a child by letting me feel in my body when, like, well, this is how you feel if you tell a lie. You kind of have that little pit in your stomach, right? This is how you feel something in your heart. You feel like that warmth, like a warm hug when you do something kind for someone. And it really, I was very little learning this. So from a young age, I've just been able to now be in touch with my body.
What a gift she gave
I know.
you.
I'm like, that's beautiful,
Such a
Greta.
beautiful gift that I still have today and then I've taught to my children. So when you're saying that connectedness,
Yes.
it is so critical. And sometimes if you're faced with a tough decision, it is all about how does this feel in my body?
Yes. We have these bodies for a reason. It's not to dismiss them. As many people, the body is not sinful. The body is not a sin. And the body is not, there's a beautiful book called The Body is Not an Apology. So we have these bodies for a reason. We're earthen vessels. We're made out of the same material, if you will, as the dust of the ground, as the stars.
I love that.
Stardust.
We're literally stardust.
We're literally stardust. That's going to be the opening of my book when I write about the right within experience.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what are we really talking about here? And that's science, right?
Yeah.
That's science. Like we
Factual.
It's factual. So we have these bodies for a reason, and they're not throwaway. And we want to tune them up and have the listening and have the care and have the stewardship of them so that we can enjoy life. There's a beautiful scripture that also says, God has given us all things richly to enjoy.
And you were beautifully and wonderfully made. Like that scripture sits in my head so much. Like if all these little kids could just literally be bathed in those words, right? You are beautifully and wonderfully made.
Our uniqueness in the human family, how unique we each are, and how uniquely we developed as we migrated from Africa. So what the science is telling us is that we all started there. All of us. I remember I said that one time I was in the cleaners, and this lady, she was just freaking out like,
oh my gosh.
white lady. She was like, oh my God, I cannot be from Africa. Yeah, baby, you are. Yes, honey. Yes, hunty. Yes, hunty. That's where it all started. The human beings migrated from Africa populated East and West Asia, taking with them these embodied practices that later became what we know as Hinduism, Buddhism. Buddha didn't start Buddhism, by the way, but anyway, that's another story. And migrated up. If you look at I forgot what it's called, but you could look at the land masses and you could see how it all used to be one, and then something happened and that it broke off. Because if you look at it, you could see how the far Africa,
It's like a
and the
puzzle.
States, how it just fits together.
Wow.
Because how they get across they migrated, and as you've got farther north, you got lighter because
You didn't need the melanin.
the weather.
Right.
You know, went into caves and
They were trying to get all that vitamin D absorbed as much as possible. That makes so much sense.
so I think that I forgot what my point was in the beginning of this, but I think the whole notion is that we are one.
One.
Human family is diverse, but it is one human family, and it's important that we just keep reminding ourselves of that in these trials and tribulation. Oftentimes, I'll walk into places and people are just so nice to me. I'm just like, people are nice to me almost, I'm going to tell you, almost everywhere I go. It's very rare. It's very rare that I go somewhere and somebody is just not really good to me. I assert it's back to the energy. It's energetic.
Something you're putting in.
I assert that love bomb at people all over the place.
Yeah. What you put out and it comes back to you.
And because it's connecting with an energetic, it's not connecting with a political alignment. It's not connecting with an ethnicity.
All the things that are meant to separate us.
It's not connecting with a racial designation.
Right.
It's connecting, it's a heart connection. That's another reason why I love heart math. They'll always say in heart math, send heart to this thing, send heart to that. I'm going to be speaking at a global coherence conference put on by the Heart Math group, and it's all about the heart and how can inside of these challenging times we stay connected to the heart. And so that's what I endeavor to do, is just send heart. Okay, Janae, I'm like everybody else. I have biases. I try to notice them. I try to be
Noticing
aware
them.
aware of them and go, come back.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the gift you gave our listeners already today. Is just feel that feeling. If you get that feeling in the elevator, pay attention to that, and then that's where the change starts to happen.
Yes. So we want to be, we're always walking a fine line of where am I really in danger?
Right.
And where is this program?
Conditioning, programming,
My own.
Yes. And walking that fine line.
And you may not even know that you have that conditioning.
Absolutely, because it's so pervasive. It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's like osmosis. You just take it in.
Born into it.
Born into it. I was in a store with my son when he was younger. He was 16, but he's tall. Like now he's 6'8". So 16, he was probably like 6'4" or something like that. And we walked into this lifestyle store, and really all cute stuff. And he went to one wall and I went to another. And he's tall, African American, and he had on what kids wear, a hoodie. And I watched the store owner go, and I was mortified because there was other people in the store too. And I said, hey, how you doing? I said, that's my son. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he
Shift.
And what upset me was not so much that moment, but I thought about what about all the moments when I'm not there to say, hey, that's my son. He's a good kid and he has money and we don't steal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just thought, what is it like for him to have to walk through the world and have to be scanning for his safety? And how can I teach him to still cultivate a high vibration, a high frequency, a high love energetic, and still scan for safety.
Right.
Like you have to do both. So it's an interesting walk that we have.
Yeah, that brought up so much for me in just that little instance. Like the fact that even thinking about, I'm going to be really raw and real with you right now about, I just went and was getting stuff for a garden for my friend, and we both looked like homeless ladies. Like we were not dressed nice. We were, no makeup, and hair was like not even brushed. We just looked really bad. And it made me think, I wonder, did you feel when you go out that I have to dress nice and put on my jewelry, put on my scarf so that I'm treated with respect? And then, not only that, but your son can't even just be a teenager and wear a hoodie without them thinking he's a thug. And it's like, but I can just show up and go buy stuff and looking like a homeless woman. And that never even crosses my mind that I need to like put myself together so that people will respect me and know that I'm not, coming to rob them.
You're very insightful, because that is a truth. Now, I like to dress up anyway because I'm a New Yorker and all that. I'm just like, I'm gonna put some lip gloss on before, even if I have my baseball hat on. But I remember my mom, she said she had something to do. She grabbed my sister at the time, who was about 10, and they ran to the store and to get something. And they were stopped at the door and taken to the back room because she was thrown together. And she just said, okay, baby, come with me to the store. I don't know where the rest of us were, but she took my sister. And they interrogated her. And my mom is now 91, but this was when she was probably in her 40s or maybe even her 30s. She is a graduate of NYU, class of 1954. But same thing. Let me just run out here, threw something on. But she's a Black woman.
You should have the right to run out the house looking ratchet and get your shit done, really, without being judged.
But that is just not how it goes. And I gotta say, I'm often saying that to my son. What do you have on? How do you look? And now he's 6'8". You're 6'8". You can't go anywhere without people not knowing you. And he is like, so he's not a New Yorker, which he always reminds me, Mom, I'm not a New Yorker. I'm from California. So he's a California kid. Shorts in the winter. New Yorkers are like, what are y'all?
What's wrong with you?
And hoodies in the summer. I don't get it.
Right.
We don't know, but
so he's a California kid.
Yeah.
With all the
his experience and his
there's a casualness, a relaxedness.
Yes.
But I'm often concerned about that. So you're very insightful. It's like, how do I negotiate my space? How am I tone checking myself?
Sure.
What am I transmitting with my language to let somebody know who I am or what I have access to? And and the code switching, and it's a thing. It can be a lot.
Yeah.
I call it sometimes it's a vortex that you get in for survival. And this is part of what the Right Within experience endeavors to do. It endeavors to have us see it and loosen the grip of it.
Oh my God, I feel that right now,
right?
just
Same.
as you said it, because it really like my whole heart got
Yes.
tightened when you told that story.
Yes. Loosen the grip
Shake
of
it
it so that I can walk through the world, because I said, look, I'm going to be fly anyway, but,
Yeah.
that's just my personality. But without having it be in order to survive.
That's the difference.
In order to whatever.
It's because that's your choice. That's not somebody else's choice of how you may be treated.
Exactly. And that is coming out of the victimhood.
Yeah.
Where you can fully choose, You can fully embrace your black girl magic, whatever that looks
That's where the real power is,
Right.
coming out of that victimhood.
right. Out of that victimhood,
Yeah.
out of being designed by the white gaze.
Mm-hmm.
The author Toni Morrison talked
Yeah.
about that. She said, I write my books without the white gaze. This is an inside look at a community.
Yeah.
And the complexity of the different relationships. It had nothing to do with white people. White people are not central to everything.
Yes.
And that's when you get to separate the supremacy, the superiority,
The lie.
the lie. How about I'm not thinking about you like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not giving you that power. That's the other piece
Yes.
is this is my power and I will not allow you to have that control over me.
Yes. But it's still a
Scary.
it's still a it's how would I say it? It's not a pristine road.
Right.
It's
a long way to go
it's
still.
It's a long way to go still. And what I am seeing, because my husband is self-employed, there's things that he does not deal with that I deal with. Being a part of not only working for someone else, but working for a government agency, which has its own level of dysfunction. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
I'm out. But
Yeah.
it's a finding where and how I can be sovereign and be truly myself is part of the journey. I think it's the greatest gift, the journey that we're all on. How can I truly be the person that I really came here to be?
Girl,
Yes.
you go ahead.
No, I'm just like, yes, thank you.
You really are such an example of someone who lets her true essence, her true light shine.
Thank
You really are. You're a perfect example of that. And I hope that when people listen to this podcast, they can find that, inner light in themselves, and whatever obstacles they have, they can get centered
Yes.
and let that inner light shine, because that is truly what we're all here for.
Absolutely.
And you are just so poised, so
Thank you.
educated. And I think you deliver messages in a way that comes from such a pure
Thank you.
place that it can reach people. And we're just really blessed to have had you come on this podcast and share your message. We said of joy, but I feel like, man, we've covered so
right?
much, so much. I don't even know what we're going to call this episode
Yeah.
because it is, you know what I feel at the end of it? Just, I feel love and I feel empowered.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure to be with you and to have this rich conversation and to just really, I want people to take away the possibility, back to that beautiful word, of flourishing, of finding their heart's true heart center and that light that you talked about, and stoking that fire and flame, because it can get dimmed by external forces, by our conditioning. It's finding the things in your life and sometimes reorganizing your life so that you can keep that fire stoked, keep the love light burning.
Ooh, let your light burn.
Shine. Let it burn. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.